What's happening? Hey everybody, it's the Jimmy Doane Show. We are live because it's 4 o'clock Wednesday or Sunday Eastern Standard Time. We do this live twice a week right here on Facebook for your viewing pleasure. Also, I will post a timestamped copy of the show up on YouTube and Twitter a little bit later on today. And you can find us around the web in audio format if you search for Doane, D-O-A-N-E, Jimmy. Today is the 17th day of May, 2020. We are in the live studio. What is happening, Dr. Doane?
What is happening?
Yeah.
Well, a fair amount has happened since last we met.
Left our heroes.
Yes, left our heroes, right. The one thing is, it is amazing to me, of course, to see the division that has to do with this coronavirus thing. I mean, the people that are convinced that death stalks the streets. Imminent, right. And if you don't stay home, like out here on the road, I think I mentioned there are signs out on the road that somebody had printed up that said, and you have to read them in your car, of course. It says basically, go home. Right. Stay in your house, or else you're going to, spread the virus, blah, 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 and so forth and so on. It's interesting to me. Well, let me say two things. A slight digression. I listened to Scott Adams this morning. Okay. And he hi Scott. He decided to put everybody in a bubble. Yeah. I heard. And it was the good. This is what's really good about this. Okay. And he went through 4 or 5 things, and he said, now this is the good stuff about this. And I forget exactly what they were, but if you get a chance, you can go on. It's on Periscope, and you just look for him, and you can replay it. And he was talking about just the benefits of the good things that come out of the whole thing? Right. Well, kind of the good things, but what hasn't been bad about it. I mean, the fears and the threats and so forth that have just not happened. Well, we kind of anticipated that. I mean, when we first reported on this in January, we said, don't worry about it. You're cool. And that actually may turn out to be the correct advice. At the end of the day, but there was obviously some time in between where there were some unknowns. And when Italy is reporting a 10% death rate, we know that flus can be 10% pretty easily, and they can be 50%. So there was a big question as to whether or not, oh Jesus, is this going to be as contagious as chickenpox? And in Italy, of course, it was, oh Jesus, is what you would say. That's what you would say. That's right. And so trot down there to the Vatican. Jesus. It makes perfect sense that everybody would go home for a couple of months until we figured this out. Well, at least a month anyway. But it's open back up. Look, this is Times Square, or New York City behind us. We got people out there. Not a lot of people, but people they're going back out, and it's going to happen. It's going to be unstoppable. The Virginia Beach was packed this week, even though it was closed. Oh, is that right? Closed, packed. Okay. And so what? I'm going to talk about that. There's nothing they can do. It's going to reopen, and it makes perfect sense. There's a clear, easy way. It's simple. If you're vulnerable, you stay home. You protect yourself. That's what you do. You don't go out. You don't expose. Don't cross with other people who are going out. Everybody else, go back out. It's time. Well, it is kind of interesting that one more thing. Let me just say one more thing on that before everybody jumps on me for killing grandma. Here's the thing. You want to talk about death? There's going to be far, far more death in third world countries due to the American economy shut down than if we were to open back up and coronavirus went everywhere around here. Now, yeah, they wouldn't be Americans, but if you're just worried about death and people, the death toll is going to be huge. Racist. Well, yeah, exactly. You're racist. That's what I'm calling them on. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So there you go. If you don't talk about death, it's reopened. You want to talk about economy, it's reopened. Those are the things. So, well, what's interesting, of course, is given our petty tyrants free reign to tell us exactly what to do and how to do it and so forth. And even here locally, we've had some stuff like that. What was interesting was locally, there was a fairly big expose on how many people have died in Alachua County here. Alachua County, about 250,000 people in Alachua County, and 125, half that number actually here in the city of Gainesville. And we've had like 10 deaths or something. And yeah, I think it's 4. Well, we had they added some more on that they found later on or something. Turns out that these almost all of them either they were imported from Jacksonville because they had to come down here to hospice or to Shands, and they were already sick, or they were at risk. I mean, these are people that were already dead. I mean, they were on the way out. It turns out that I believe that there has not been one really healthy person that's died here.
Well, you mean here?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have heard of really healthy people dying and getting. I've seen anecdotes, people who know somebody who was like a marathon runner, or there was an Olympic swimmer. So it happens because some people are vulnerable to certain things. We know that. That's what happens. Every once in a while, you just drop dead.
Well, that's true. I can remember a very dear friend of mine who was a real athlete, and he was living out in St. Augustine, and he would run on the beach every day. I mean, he was in top physical shape, and halfway down the beach, he dropped dead. Literally dropped dead. And, heart attack, something like that.
Right.
But he was a guy who never should have. But on and on. I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this. I have just seen, what I've seen is the great divide among the tyrants, the owners, the controllers, and so forth, our glorious leaders, and the regular people. One of the things that I've seen here is in South Lake Tahoe, for instance, issues $1,000 fines to tourists and short-term rental people who dare to venture out on the beach. Now, one of the things that it's interesting, the mayor there said, "Well, we're a tourist place anyway. We're
By the way,
we're a tourist place." Mm-hmm. And the $1,000 citations to those who violate the California stay-at-home order, which asks people to stay home.
Right.
No, you're not asking anybody. You're telling them, and $1,000. You have a choice. $1,000 or stay at home. I mean,
that's it.
What are you worried about?
Easy peasy.
We don't want to be finding people, he says. We just want people to stay home right now. We just want to make sure that we're doing everything to keep our community safe. And what he's worried about, of course, is the tourists running in there with their COVID-19 or whatever it is, although asymptotic, not no visible sign, and maybe they touch somebody and infect the local people. And so, anyway, it's important to reiterate they're a tourism destination. We are a tourism economy, and we embrace everyone who comes to Tahoe in this place everyone calls home. But right now, we want to make sure we're protecting our local community. And he says, however, knowing that this is a tourist destination, a lot of people from other parts of California own homes up here. Mm-hmm. Second home, third home, whatever it is. And if you are a homeowner and you come up to work on it or stay on your property, that's allowed. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But if you tell your friend, for instance, hey, take my house.
Hey.
Yeah, here's the keys. Take my. No, you're out. You can't do that. So I watched this stuff about. One of the things that I guess I worry about to some extent is if you have all of these people sequestering in place, in their own homes, and suddenly you release them out. Well, what do you expect? I mean, here are people who have maybe even compromised their immune system by not being out someplace where there's actual germs. I don't know. But the bottom line is you've got a whole ton of people who haven't been out in the shopping, in the mall, in the bars or whatever it is, and suddenly you've decided to release the hound. No, you've decided to open up things. Well, what do you expect? Here's a bunch of people who may or may not be susceptible, that haven't been because they've been hiding out under their bed in their house, and now when they get sick, well, what do you expect?
Right. Well, that's everybody's holding their breath right now to figure out to wait and see what happens in Georgia and
hold
Florida.
Your breath is a good thing.
That's what you do.
That's right.
And again, here it's a simple solution. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to do anything. All you have to know is if you think you're vulnerable, if you're afraid of this particular virus, then stay at home. Stay sequestered. There's no reason for everybody to be sequestered if the people who are vulnerable stay sequestered. You know what I mean?
Right.
If just the vulnerable people, if just those people are shut away, then everybody else can go back out.
Yeah.
And we need the economy.
What the powers that be are saying is there's a 10 or 20% of the people, or however, at least 10% of the people are carriers. They don't know. They don't have any symptoms.
It doesn't matter if the vulnerable people stay at home. Then it doesn't matter if everybody else has it and is asymptomatic or whatever, and they're out. it doesn't matter because the vulnerable people are protected. And it's just like, they need to just look at that. They're trying to keep the healthy people in case the vulnerable people will go out.
Yeah.
No. If you're vulnerable, you stay inside. And look, as far as I'm concerned, the state needs to be there to provide information, to advise adult Americans what to do. You don't give orders out, and that's what we're seeing right now is people are coming up on the concept of, geez, well, they can do whatever they want, or can they? And like we've said, we can hear the lawsuits approaching because of this thing. And we've seen this week. Did you see they're still badgering at least this one hairdresser. They've threatened not only stay at home and arrest and all this kind of stuff, but now we're going to pull all your licenses.
Right.
We're going to pull all the licenses for all the hairdressers in the place. Mm-hmm. Shut down everybody's ability to make money unless you do what we say.
Right.
And it's like, wow. I mean, that kind of stuff. And they sicked child protective services on the woman.
Did they?
Yeah. They said, look, you've obviously been a danger to your kids because you don't respect the coronavirus here. And they went and interviewed her 6-year-old, and they're going to interview her 3-year-old.
Really?
Yeah, her 3-year-old.
Now,
like,
the question
did mommy stay 6 feet away from you? I mean, at all times yesterday? They'll do it. Trust me. That question will be asked, and it'll be answered, and the answer will be interpreted, and they'll interpret it the way that they want to interpret it.
Yeah, because if the 3-year-old says no, she said yes.
That's it. Well, she said no, but we could tell she was lying.
Yeah,
right. Or she said, I mean, trust me, it'll be whatever they want it to be.
Yeah.
And I feel for the woman because she's going to have to deal with this. She's going to have to hire attorneys to back them off just so she can try to operate her business. This is all, and somebody needs to stake out a 9th Amendment claim to work.
Right.
I don't understand how not one lawyer in the country has decided, hey, shit, we have a 9th Amendment there which secures us all the rights that we expect to have, like going outside.
Well, or like working. I mean, the simple fact is, who doesn't work? I mean, the simple fact is, you have a God-given right to do something and exchange it to somebody else.
Right.
There's no law against that. Well, there are now. Of course, you have to have a license.
Well, what's interesting is that the government, of course, depends upon the revenue from that work.
Right, that's true.
The government doesn't even exist without that work.
Right.
And so, I mean, once their guns run out, I mean, how do they replace it if nobody's working? So,
well, you press the button.
Yeah, well, exactly. Print is what you do.
Yeah. Well, what was it? What was it when Bender or whatever it was said? Because what's his name? Flash
Fry.
No, it wasn't Fry, but the big gun guy, and he said, and we eliminated all these people until we ran out of bullets. Mm-hmm. And then Bender picks it up and says, "Oh, look, here's a reset button." and you could reloads the whole thing. Uh-huh. So anyway, that was one of the.
We're gonna see about this, but I like the path that it's going in. That is, I like the concept that the people are just saying whatever. And the more that other people look around and see people out there without their masks on, like I saw today a video of a frantic woman with a mask on at the beach, just frantic that everybody didn't have masks on.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Well, that's Karen.
Well, that's what they called her, of course.
Of course they did.
You poor. I feel bad for her.
Sorry for people named.
Seriously,
yeah.
God, you guys are taking it on the chin. But that's going to be by July 4th, man. If you say, "Where's your mask?"
Yeah, New York beaches will be open on Memorial Day.
Okay, that's the 25th.
Oh, is that when it is?
Yeah.
That's like soon.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next Monday.
That says, so New York beaches will be open for Memorial Day, but will have limited access. Okay. The decision was made in coordination with New Jersey and Connecticut, which previously announced May 22nd reopenings for their beaches. And he said this is somebody in New York said on Friday that they had to do the same for New York, to avoid people from the state, from New York, flocking to New Jersey or Connecticut shores and potentially sparking another outbreak. and I'm not sure exactly how that works. You go to New Jersey or you go to Connecticut, and what, you pick it up and bring it back to New York, or I mean, who knows? Okay. So while the beaches were open, concession stands will not be open. And that's to avoid people lining up for drinks and food.
Right.
Because you can't
trust people to line up.
No, that's right. You can't trust them. That's right. For food. And of course, this guy from New York says everyone is vulnerable in this virus. Government can't keep you safe. Well, wait a minute. You just said you're going to close everything down because we're going to keep you safe, but we can't.
Right. Right.
So,
well, that just means whatever we're doing, we can do more.
Right. So Cuomo has extended the statewide coronavirus at home until June 13th. But regions that meet reopening requirements can start to reopen before then. What's fascinating is I looked on the news thing today, and they were showing pictures of the beaches. Mm-hmm. And there was, thousands of people out there just with towels sitting down, and none of this 6 foot apart business or anything. None of it. I mean, what are you going to do when you have 5,000 people sitting on the beach and you've got, I don't know,
nothing.
30 cops? What are they going to do?
You're going to go back and you're going to say, we're going to change this law. Because you can't sit there and have that thrown in your face. And so you can't enforce it. And that's what I've been saying this whole time.
The thing about it that I find interesting is once you get, they're going to say it's a mob or whatever it is, but, you get a cop or two of them, they're probably in pairs, walking up and trying to issue a summons to, a family, a girlfriend, boyfriend, and some classmates. You got 8 or 10 people sitting around talking, listening to radio, whatever it is, and the cop walks up and says, you have to disperse.
He's going to run out of tickets.
Well, not only is he going to run out of tickets, but I think that there might be some serious felony
but you see that one where they threw him in the pond?
Yeah, well, that was a different one totally. That was almost an accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a.
Oh, okay.
That was clickbait.
I didn't read.
No, I read
didn't
the whole thing. It was not. It was not. That was a clickbait. You had to read the whole thing to realize it wasn't anything like that at all.
Right.
And they apologized.
See, so they don't worry about anything, man. Nobody's going to mess with the cop. I saw one of a bunch of British teens, and the cop walks up, and they all started exercising. They were like, "Oh no, we're just doing jumping jacks here, officer."
Well, the next thing we got here is there's an outfit, apparently some blog outfit called Page 6, has told that a famous Upper Side East bar in New York City, a lounge, as well as trendy downtown hotel, have been opening up in spite of the lockdown, but strictly for discreet friends of homeowners and managers.
The speakeasy, it's the return of the speakeasy.
The return of the speakeasy, exactly. The return of the speakeasy. And it's just, you don't think that people are going to get around this?
We've done this before.
We've done this before. I sit there and I was reading the stuff about it is, we've talked before about the fact that licenses are anathema to a free society.
Yep.
You just shouldn't have to have a license to do normal stuff. Hairdressers, I mean, give me a break.
Makes no sense. Whoever's granting the license doesn't have a license to grant licenses.
That's right. And it's just, and of course, the once you have this cabal of people that are inside the licensing, they'll fight tooth and nail to protect it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, once it's been recognized as legitimate.
Right. Well, I for instance, I noticed that when I first got my real estate license, this 30 years ago, it was, you had to take the test and everything, and then you had to jump through some hoops. You couldn't become a broker right away. You had to apprentice for a year or something.
Yeah.
And then you become a broker, instead of just an associate.
To earn your equality.
Right. That's right. But then they said, it turned out up until that time, if you had say you had an apartment complex and you had your secretary and she would just collect the rent. Well, now she has to have a license. She has to pass the test.
Right.
I mean, and I mean, you just said, what to answer the phone? What are you talking about?
Right.
So anyway, the next thing we've seen though is in New York City area bars, people are flocking to the bars. This guy named Mark Levine, who chairs the health committee, has blamed the recklessness on quarantine fatigue, he calls it. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
No kidding. And he said he feared it might lead to a rebound in COVID-19 deaths.
Well, and fear is always a great way to make a decision,
That's what
right?
you do. A New York PD Post person said there will be no crackdown, and if social distance violations increase, cops will continue to issue summonses, as in the past. No crackdown, but summonses, the whole deal. But the reckless quarantine fatigue, and this is, you got to think about it. There's people who've been cooped up for a month or more, 2 months. Screw it, I'm going out.
Like I said, very beginning, humans are creatures of habit. And they can't simply just change all of their habits willy-nilly. Otherwise, everybody could lose weight when they wanted to. You could do whatever. That's it. You could do it. You could just put it down. I don't need to smoke anymore. What the heck? No. I'm sorry. Whatever you've been doing, that is what you are inclined to do. And you can't shut off 300 million people. It's remarkable that they would even think that they could. I mean, I remember people in the beginning talking about, well, we're going to be shut down for 9 months. I'm like, no,
well,
we're
it
not.
is one of the things that is interesting about all this. It'll be interesting to see but there's a thing here about a backlash. But what I'm wondering is the number of businesses that are totally gone forever because of the lockdown. These are businesses that were, they might have been on the teetering on the edge anyway, but because there's nobody showing up, furniture stores or something like this, and suddenly people can't go.
Well, I don't think we know the extent of that
Well,
yet.
I don't think, but I think it's pretty obvious when you see the number of bankruptcies, for instance.
Well,
and there are people that have said, we're done now. We're done. We don't have enough money to open up again.
I heard the foreclosure delinquencies were already outpacing 2008.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. And let me just say, that was a tsunami of delinquencies, and if we're beyond that, that does not bode well. Now, of course, a lot of people may catch up. They may get a reprieve. They may pass some. We've obviously they're and I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute. They're handing out more cash.
Well, the House has passed the $3 trillion.
Yes.
But the Senate, of course, is going to really, I don't know what they're going to do about it. They're going to trim it down to $2 trillion.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to a mere $2 trillion, and so we've got our stimulus cash here right behind us.
Yeah, that's good.
As you can see, we took our stimulus money and just threw it around the room. I see you stacked yours up nicely.
Nice, I did. That's right. I'm a neat person.
That's right. I decided to scatter, see if I could cover every surface here with this. But that is obviously going to distort everything in terms of how people respond. And it's like I've been hearing our economic advisors talk about zombie companies. They'll prop up a bunch of companies that should have gone out of business. I mean, what if you're a company that was going to fail anyway just based on your business model?
The coronavirus hit Solyndra just before they declared bankruptcy.
Exactly.
Now we're
$100 million.
That's it.
And they would get it.
Yeah.
And they're passing out. I saw a Democrat screaming about Donald Trump assigning $100 billion of this money to his friends. And I'm like, that's 2%.
Yeah.
That's 2%, buddy. What do you I mean, that's nothing. That's a drop in the bucket in terms of the money that's going. About the other 98% that's going out the door. So, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting, as you mentioned, one of the things is that humans are adaptable. If nothing else, they're adaptable. Even in the face of unfair laws, they will do what they have to make themselves, whole, if you want to call it about it. Restaurants' COVID surcharges spark a backlash, it says here. Some restaurants have decided to add on the bottom, they'll have a surcharge, a meat surcharge for corn, and they call it the Coronavirus 19 surcharge.
Well, why don't they just raise the price?
Well, that's exactly what's happening. What it said is to combat rising meat prices during the pandemic. However, after facing a backlash, some restaurants have been forced to remove the surcharges, with many raising prices instead. Well, duh. And one of the things is you've seen that fresh meat prices are on the rise because of a lot of the shutdowns of the meat processing places and so forth. And somebody said that the meat prices, because there's a delay in the train, in the food train and everything, delivery cycle and so forth, could go up, another 15 or 20%. in the following. Who knows? Before it comes back down again, like gasoline. You know,
Right.
gasoline has gone up and down all over the place. So the point being that what I thought this was interesting was some of the restaurants decided to add a surcharge, and people said, you know, what's this? And the owner would come out and say, look, you know, we paid extra for this, and people just didn't like it anyway. You know, this is the freebie, I get it free type stuff mentality. It's as if the meat is not going to cost any more. I went over, for instance, to one of our restaurants here, which is the 25% people inside, and they had a new limited menu.
Yeah.
And but I did notice that the prices had gone up on their new limited menu, and rather substantially.
Yeah.
So
well, you got to figure they've got to. I mean, restaurants have got to be on their knees at this point. I mean, I've worked in a lot of restaurants over the years, and one thing I remember is that they all seem to be operating on very slim margins, and
I mean, they really are. When you think about it, you think about the number of businesses, for instance, that are extremely seasonal. Some of the restaurants are like Friday and Saturday. That's it. There are ski resorts that are, you know, January through April. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are places, and here in Florida, you know, we've got the snowbirds that show up from December to April.
Yeah.
And you go to now, some of them are, it's gone a little larger than that here recently because we have air conditioning. But I mean, I used to go down to Naples, for instance, or to Fort Lauderdale in September. Nobody there. You know, rates were free practically, and there was like nobody there. But by God, when especially in Naples, which is a rich community. I mean, rich people have bought houses down there for 50 years, 60 years, ever since. Well, they took a hit in 1960 when Doane came through and leveled the place. But other than that,
Charles did a number on them too, didn't he?
I don't know, but Doane was the 1960 or 61, I think.
That was the big one.
That was the big one for Naples. It was, yeah. And what happened was, I'm going on a tangent here. After that happened, there were a lot of people that decided to sell their house because, you know, it would have been blown down or something. And there weren't all that. The population of the place wasn't that big anyway. But the Naples, when the people were not there, that is to say in the summertime when the Naples City Council met, they passed a law that said you could not put a real estate sign in your yard to sell your house. What you had to do was you could put a little sign, you know, like this big, and it said, call your broker. And that's all it said. You know, you had to go look up a broker,
right,
and say, you know, I'm looking at that house over there, and can you, you know, so it was interesting. Finally, that got thrown out, but it was interesting that that particular law was upheld by the Florida Supreme Court as public safety for a while. So anyway, Colorado restaurant loses its license after defying coronavirus guidelines. A Colorado restaurant has been shut down for disobeying the state's public health orders amid the pandemic. Footage from C&C Coffee and Kitchen, whatever, showed large crowds of unmasked eaters who weren't maintaining social distance. The state's restaurants and cafes are limited to delivery and drive-up at least through May 26th. Here, Memorial
next Tuesday, yeah. The day after Memorial Day.
The day after Memorial Day. Okay, so they're not going to be able to stay open on Memorial Day supposedly. That's funny. But owner, what's his name, says boycotting. He's boycotting against these public health orders, but they closed him down. They took his license away. I mean, that's the ultimate thing. I guess if you operate your restaurant without a license, I mean, you're going to send a SWAT team in there, right?
Yeah, you get arrested. I mean, this is what I've talked about in my book, Free Public, which is, you know, if you got a notice that said, "Oh, your job has been revoked," sorry. I mean, what do you do? And if the court upholds it, what do you do? I mean, it's insanity. It's tyranny, is what it is.
Yeah, it is tyranny. And as I say, that's what I've said is we've got the tyrants, the petty tyrants here in town. I was reading.
Well, they're all coming out of the woodwork at this point.
They are, and it's just interesting to see how you're going to kill grandma is just, you know, it's rife. That's all they have to fall back on.
Well, look,
is you're going to kill
grandma. It's a good motivation. They're just not thinking it all the way through. I mean, you can save grandma if grandma stays the hell home.
Well, the other thing that is interesting is they talk about they're talking about the masks, for instance, that are not effective, and you got and they're all bent out of shape because people, myself included, you know, if you're going to walk into some of these stores, you keep the mask on your front chair, your passenger seat. You throw it on, you know, and you walk in and you throw it off as soon as you walk out. I mean, okay, I've done, but I mean that's certainly not healthy.
It's science. It's just science right there.
Science right there, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, people are all upset because you can't use them. You can't use them twice. No, you've defeated the purpose of it. So you know you've got to get a box of 50. If you want to go out and shop and stuff, you have to go buy a box of 50 of these.
Right. Well, nobody's doing that, and I've seen plenty of people just defying the order, and that's the way it's going to be. I've said from the beginning, look. If people aren't wearing Google Glass, if you're not going to wear something on your face that gives you superpowers, you're not going to wear something on the face that makes it look like you're wearing a diaper on your face. I mean, it's just not going to...
Well, it is interesting because they've said that some of the robberies have picked up a little bit because...
Of course!
Because wearing a mask is now you have to have one.
My mask is like a bandana. I mean, I look like a total... outlaw with my mask on.
Okay.
Because why not? I mean, and I've seen plenty of them, different, all the styles going around, but I fingers crossed that by the middle of June, there will be a glut of unpurchased masks everywhere, and nobody will...
Yeah.
Now look, and if here's the way they do it in Japan for the last millennia. If you're sick, then you wear one, right? If you got to go out, if you have to go out, usually you stay home if you can. But if you have to go out, then you wear one. But if you're healthy, it's just not. Even Dr. Fauci on 60 Minutes said, if you're a healthy person, there's no need for you to be wearing a mask.
Really?
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The last week, 60 Minutes, Dr. Fauci. I mean, this is Eleanor Cliff called him the most respected virologist in the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So whatever. Obviously he wasn't thinking the concept of, well, you're going to infect somebody else. I mean, or if you don't know, if you're asymptomatic. But again, everybody who wants to be protected can protect themselves. So.
Right, but the other thing that you have, the other little minor problem you've got is logic will tell you. For instance, in the grocery store, you allow 10 people in at a time, whatever it is, but they're touching stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you do the math, there's something that you pick up might have been touched by 30 people.
Yeah.
What's the price on this, and you put it back. I mean, it makes no sense at all. This protection business, there is no protection. You can wear the mask all you want, but it's just not going to happen.
It's still a psychological thing at this point. I mean, look. And there's still some unknown. There's still some people going around saying, look, in Korea, in South Korea, they didn't have any. Everybody wore a mask at all times, and they only got 12,000 infections, and so there's still just enough unknown out there for people to be able to scream at you. But give it another week or two.
Well, anyway, moving along.
Yes.
It turns out that there's going to be a cure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, several. This is, as you know, the Donald has declared war, or no, what is it? What do they call it?
Warp speed.
Warp speed. That's right. Warp speed. And it was kind of interesting because it kind of makes sense in a way. Well, if you're going to devote...
How can you incentivize the companies more than they already know? Whoever makes this vaccine gets $1 trillion.
Well, it's interesting because one of the things is that, well, you say that, but what they might do is what they did during the Second World War is they license it to everybody.
Right.
So suddenly it becomes generic.
Well, that's what it should. That's what they absolutely should.
That's no question. Okay, anyway, there is a cure. A California biotech company claims it has discovered an antibody that can block 100% of the virus.
Which is nice.
Sorrento Therapeutics, based in San Diego, claims its blah, blah, blah antibody stopped coronavirus from entering 100% of healthy human cells in a petri dish.
Right.
It's one of several antibodies planned to be combined for a drug cocktail, and they're developing this in combination with a Mount Sinai School of Medicine. In a press release, Sorrento said it could produce up to 200,000 doses of the antibody a month. Well, unfortunately, 200,000 a month is not much.
Well, and then that's why you license that thing out to 40 other companies.
Right.
You can all make 200,000.
When you make this claim about 100%, I'm wondering.
There's 1 out of 1.
That's it. So the Donald has declared, claims that there will be a coronavirus vaccine by the end of the year. I don't know who that's going to wait that long, as he puts the pharma boss in charge of Operation Warp Speed.
Right.
To be ready to give out millions of doses when one is ready. We think we're going to have some very good results coming out very quickly, he said, and they're continuing developments and looking for a breakthrough. Fauci told senators on Tuesday that scientists aim to know if a successful coronavirus can be found by late fall or early winter. He noted scientists are already testing possible vaccines in a phase 1 clinical trial and eyeing on phase 2 by this summer. I don't know what are the phases anyway. What is?
Well, it's like I mean, they start off in a petri dish, and then they go to rats.
Okay.
And then probably they're talking about having human trials, like volunteer human get infected. We're gonna no, it would be volunteer. This would be as opposed to just the military ship or something like, hey, we got a second lunch, everybody. Come on down.
What's interesting about this, when you talk about the volunteers, over here when they do experiments, they will pay you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they'll pay you $10, $15
You can
a day.
keep the $5.
No, it's not that. They literally, when they're doing experiments over here at Shands or something like that, are you going to be available one day a week for the next 6 weeks for 3 hours? We'll pay you $100 when we're done with it.
Right.
$200. I mean, and you can get. And so, what are you going to give me? Can't tell.
Can't serve.
This is it's a blind experiment.
Right, exactly.
We don't know what we don't know what you're getting.
We don't even know.
We don't even know. And of course, when you walk out of there, suddenly your face. I think I got the real one.
The plague.
I got the plague, right?
Well,
I did not get the placebo.
They're talking about doing the testing, and I've heard other promising things. I heard something about blood thinners being some type of interfering thing. You take blood thinners?
I do, absolutely.
Well,
I have to.
I literally saw a report today out of, I think it was Britain, that said something like blood thinners work. And it was another one of those 100% things.
Well, I can tell you, I take this blood thinner, a pretty strong one, I think, they tell me. It's called Eliquis. I take it twice a day.
Okay.
And it's a thinner.
Right.
And I can tell it's a thinner because if I cut myself, it's
you start bleeding.
I mean, really bleeding, and you really have to wrap things up. It takes a while. You look at this.
Right.
You look at those bruises and everything.
Right.
That come from the blood underneath. It's subcutaneous. So and I'm immune. I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get the corona. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting that. It has to go through, it says, the clinical trials before it can be approved, and they're going to, one of the things that they're panic stricken about, of course, is that it's going to go through the clinical trials,
and then they approve a poison.
Approve a poison, or it's going to be like a thalidomide.
Yeah.
And suddenly, babies are born.
Well, that'll be fine as long as they don't have it mandatory.
Right.
They come out with this thing and they go, well, we sort of tested it, but it's going to be mandatory for everybody in the United States, or if you want to fly or something like that. Or they could do that. And as we've seen,
do you have your vaccine paper on you?
Your papers are not in order. And we've seen, you can go back and Google, you go to YouTube and Google that 60 Minutes report from the last pandemic in the 60s, and you can see that they forced a lot of people to do the vaccines.
Well, they do. Right now, of course, if you go to a public school, I think if might be a private school, you have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
You can't get in. Now, of course, they will arrest you if you don't send your kid to school.
Right.
So you got a choice. You can either be arrested and have the child protective people take your kids away and put them in the school,
right,
and you go to jail.
Right.
Or you can get vaccinated.
Right. So you have a choice.
You have a choice. You always have a choice. That's right. So we have a vaccine czar now.
Oh God.
Another one. Yes. Says January is a credible goal for Trump's 300 million dose target. 300 million. That's like everybody. Okay. I mean, when you think about it, what is it? 2 or 3% of the people get it, and so you're going to vaccinate everybody.
Yeah. And I think that the known vaccine complications rate
Right.
is not much lower than 2%.
That's right.
It might be a tenth of that or a hundredth of that, but it's still
happens.
right. And it means if you vaccinate 300 million people, you're going to get thousands of people who have abreactions.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's Oxford University has already started on an experimental something called jab. I'm not sure what that prevents the infection from penetrating the lungs in
kill you
monkeys.
first. Oh, okay.
So they've done it in monkeys. So they're moving up the food chain.
There you go.
You know, rats, rabbits,
Phase 3,
monkeys.
sure.
Yeah, phase 3, right. So anyway, they're already, and they said they expect results in a month's time. Well, what results? Bad, good, in between.
Just results.
So I think it's kind of interesting. The speaks. Okay, so I've got almost everything else here. Let me just back page. Okay, the one other thing that I've got that has nothing to do with the lockdown coronavirus.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the cop who hid while the Parkland students were slaughtered, he wins his job back.
Okay.
And plus back pay and overtime.
Ooh, now that's good.
Yeah, that's sweet.
I mean, for him.
An arbitration process found that Brian Miller, at the time of the massacre, was a sergeant in Broward County Sheriff's Department, was improperly, fired,
right.
and he received back pay as well as missed overtime, and of course, and accrued holidays and other benefits which he would have been entitled to. I think it's interesting. Now, they have the photo of this guy, and he's standing outside there. The shots are ringing around, and he just stands there, doesn't do anything. And this, I mean, they had a video, for God's sakes.
You're under fire. I mean, I forgive the guy for not running there. Look, yeah, sure, it's your job. Yeah, just run into the hail of bullets. I mean, it's perfectly understandable that you would think that you're capable of that, and then when the moment arrives, you're not. Now, whether or not he gets I wouldn't put him back out on the street again. You know, you give him a desk job at this point. You say, hey, obviously it's a little stressful for you out there, so how about you answer the phone or something?
No, maybe he's got PTSD or something after.
Well,
sure. You certainly got to feel.
Enough.
You got to feel that a lot of people are calling you a coward.
Oh my God! The guy was absolutely pilloried.
Pilloried, yes.
I mean, his reputation, everything was destroyed. So it's like, so he gets this back. It's not like this is what he wanted all along or anything. A big windfall, and he got to time off. Look, this was obviously a hugely traumatic experience for the guy, but. Who's to say? And then I guess the courts are whether he gets his job back, and so fine. So
well, I don't know about the courts, but I don't know who what. Well, apparently they sued. Somebody sued it was his police. It was his union, basically, that got him back.
Yeah.
And but I thought one of the things that they included on this was his missed overtime.
Yeah.
Thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You're at home, for God's sakes. Right. You're watching TV, Netflix, whatever it is, and you missed overtime.
Right. Well, that's because they probably have regular overtime scheduled in, and like they account. Like, for example, the cops that I depose get overtime when they come to a deposition, stuff like that. Because it's not something that they expected to do. It's extra work, and it's whatever. So you never know how long it's going to be, and so it could be extra. So you get so it's built in. But that goes back to the whole concept of, I mean, the overtime laws are silly and cause all kinds of distortions. But
here we are.
But so all right, so there's that. So all right, that's all you got?
Yes.
Oh well, I got a couple of non-COVID related stuff.
Good. Finally, we can get off of that.
Yeah, exactly. So so you saw Obama. Did you see the Obama commencement speech or anything?
No, I heard about it, and I heard it was really. He trashed Trump, right?
Well, he got political,
he got totally political. But apparently, they said that Trump was not mentioned by name.
Right.
But everybody was sitting there saying,
he said something about an orange guy in the White House.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, so the two things that are interesting about this, two things that I found, and I didn't watch the whole thing or any of it actually, but I found two things interesting. One, that he gets political about it, which to me tells me either he has intentions about getting back involved in politics, or he's concerned about whatever's going on. This is more of the attacks because of the whole Obamagate counterattack that Trump is trying to mount on him. But I don't expect anything to come of that. Certainly don't expect Lindsey Graham to depose or interview Obama about it. And Lindsey's already come out and said he's not going to, or not thinking about that. And he talked about matters of executive privilege, which there aren't any now because he's out of the office.
Right.
I mean, there could be some. You could argue that there would be some kind of chilling effect if you were to bring a president back and depose him.
But what's not chilling about him attacking our current president?
Well, exactly. I think you could make the counter argument as well. So we'll see. But I don't know how far this is going to go. I've said from the beginning that they won't go after Comey and McCabe and those guys in criminal ways because of the thin blue line. But they may. So we'll see. It's still, the jury's still out there. But the other thing that I thought was interesting and just, I thought incredible about one comment, I guess I understand it, but Obama came out and talked about the Georgia shooting. The guy, Arbery.
Oh, right.
Ahmad.
The guy that, yeah.
Right. And he said, and this is, a former president of the United States said, a black man can't go out for a jog without the fear of getting shot by people who are trying to question him when he won't answer their questions.
Okay.
So in other words, he characterized the entire case like he totally undermined the courts and the system and everything.
Yeah.
Presumption of innocence? Nah. I mean, here's a guy who was the chief executive officer for 8 years, and he doesn't understand. You got to support the system, man. I mean, you and the system says you're innocent until proven guilty. And by the way, I mean, when you go back through history and you look at the black people involved in the system, the concept of innocent until proven guilty has protected them like no other group of people. Because if we didn't have that, man, I mean,
lynchings.
Oh my God! It would have been open season,
and
okay?
it was,
and it was right.
I mean, it was interesting because it was open season until the 50s.
Anyway, exactly. And so imagine if we give up on the concept of innocent until proven guilty, and here is the former president coming out and basically blowing it off like it's nothing, like it's not like, and also stoking race tensions in the meantime. I mean, dude, why not just wait for the freaking courts to come out and do it? You don't have to mention anything about that. Everybody knows all about it. I mean, the whole thing, it was just such a low blow for me, I thought. I mean, boy, he really, I mean,
you got nothing better to do?
Seriously, I mean, you're going to just throw the courts under the thing there on a race issue. You're just going to bring it up like, you know, the whole Trayvon thing. And I just thought it was bad move, but whatever, it's his thing, whatever he wants to do.
Jogging while black.
Well, yeah.
Used to be driving while black
That's right. And look, I've defended plenty of people who got busted for driving while black.
Yeah.
And they got pulled over absolutely because they were just a black guy in the place. Mm-hmm. And you're supposed to get that stuff thrown out, but the courts don't always throw it out.
Yeah.
And so, the cop said he was suspicious or whatever. Well,
yeah.
Why? Well, because he was black. No, I'm sorry, you can't. That's not a race neutral reason.
Yeah.
But they get away with it sometimes because they'll come up with something else.
Yeah, right.
And so, but that being said, you don't. The country's on a path towards healing. I mean, always it's been getting better slowly over the decades. I mean, you know, my generation grew up. Everybody's all integrated. It didn't matter, and now, of course, the millennials. I'm sure it's even more so. And yet, here's this guy stoking this stuff from afar. It's just like, oof, okay, whatever you want. But another thing that is. Let's see, did I finish that?
Non-COVID.
Yeah, another non-COVID thing is the Michael Flynn thing.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so people have been asking me what's an unmasking and what did they do and what did Flynn do and why is the judge asking for these amicus briefs and what does that mean and that kind of stuff. So here's what's going on.
Well, bring you up to date on this, of course, that he was, what was he fired or what happened?
Well,
originally he pleaded guilty.
Yeah.
To some stuff.
To lying to the FBI.
Lying to the FBI,
right.
and it came out pretty obviously that it was entrapment.
Well, it doesn't look great for them right now. I won't go so far as entrapment, but it doesn't look great for them. And so the executive made the decision, and this is Barr, to drop the case.
Right.
And so the judge normally would just drop the case.
Right.
But this judge doesn't want to drop the case.
Okay.
And so what he's done, and just to show you how ridiculous this move is, it won't work. The case is going to get dropped because you can't force somebody to prosecute a case because they can just do a terrible job and lose.
Right.
And then you've just wasted everybody's time for no good reason. So he's going to lose. But in the meantime, what he's done is he's called for these amicus briefs because he said, this is so stupid, when General Flynn said that he lied to the FBI, he was under oath. So now, if he's saying that he didn't lie to the FBI, that means he lied when he said that he lied. Exactly.
Gotcha!
Exactly. That's what they're saying. Perjury. You perjured yourself because you lied to us when you said you lied to the FBI. And it's just like, come on, man. That's the dumbest thing ever. You let people withdraw their pleas. We do it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. The first thing people do when they come to you and they've been arrested is they're like, oh my God, they're worried about having pled not guilty. Mm-hmm. They always come in, they're like, oh my God, I said not guilty, but, maybe, I don't know, should I just plead guilty? You're like, no! You plead not guilty to begin with because that's your right, and then you work it out, and then you change your plea at the end. And nobody comes back and says, well, you pled not guilty to begin with.
Liar.
How dare you? Exactly. And yet that's sort of the reverse of what this guy is doing. So it's just stupid. But that's that. And the unmasking thing is not any really big deal. They do it all the time. Look, if you don't think that the NSA and a whole bunch of people, like 100 different people up there in Washington, know every single piece of data coming in on every single phone call, you're crazy. You're not paying attention. They know all that shit. It's not just metadata. They literally listen to everybody's phone conversations, and then it's just a question of they check the box of whether or not it's important or not. And so this was just a question of the people who were listening on the conversation. And this is Michael Flynn. He's the incoming national security advisor, and he's telling the Russian guy, hold off on what you're doing until we get into office, which is going to be in another few weeks. And that conversation gets deemed to be a possible improper influence charge. Mm-hmm. And that's why they conned him into it anyway. But
I wonder what they said when they caught Obama on the hot mic when he was talking.
Yeah, they blew that off. I don't know. I mean, he goes talking to Medvedev.
Wait till I get reelected.
I'll have more flexibility after the election. It doesn't get any more direct than that. He's literally, it's the premier telling the sub-premier, it doesn't get, but look, I will defend him on that. It is what it is. It's an election, and he does have more flexibility after the election. It doesn't mean he's improperly influencing the guy right then. It doesn't mean he's in the guy's pocket right then because he says one thing that's positive, but that's the other thing I wanted to bring up this week. More Trump strawmanning. They're having so much fun with Trump strawmanning, and I hope it's fun for them because it is like such an exercise in futility.
Now who's this? Who's doing this?
I see it everywhere. I saw just this morning Eleanor Cliff comes out on McLaughlin and says that Trump says in his speech, which he did last week, we have met the moment and we have prevailed. Mm-hmm. And of course he was talking about coronavirus. Right. And so she threw him up under the bus for saying we have met the moment and we have prevailed, just like George Bush did, mission accomplished on the thing. The problem is that sentence started with the words in generations past.
I see.
He wasn't talking about the present. I mean, anybody who knows English grammar at all knows that literally the sentence was phrased in the past. So that's just not what he said. Yeah. I mean, you can pretend he was talking about today if you want to, and that's the straw man argument, and go ahead, knock yourself out, have some fun with that. But that's not what he said. He didn't say we met the moment this time. He said in generations past, we met the moment. That's what he said. And then the other thing that he said this week was, this was going around my Facebook page. People were all upset. I mean, upset that Trump had said, well, we have a whole bunch of coronavirus cases because we do more testing than everybody else.
Okay.
Okay, and of course what their inference from that was that Trump believes that if we don't test, that the cases aren't actually there.
Okay.
Right? Because you'd have to be a fucking idiot to think that, and they think that he's an idiot, or they want to believe that he's an idiot, or they want to project that he's an idiot.
Yeah. And
so they say that, when clearly what he meant was the contrapositive, which is, if other places do more testing, they'll find more cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so obvious. That's what he meant. So this straw manning of Trump is just continuing unabated. And I don't even get involved because it's like, it's a dog pile, like, oh, he's such an idiot and he's this and he's that. And it's like, yeah, well, he didn't say any of that. The other one was, he's talking to an Asian reporter at the White House and she says something about the coronavirus and he says, well, ask China. And she says, oh my God, why did you ask me specifically that? Because I'm Chinese? And no, it's because I was just talking to you. It was like the biggest straw man thing ever. Like she tried so hard to be the victim. And I just wish she had come out and said, 'cause you're a chink, that's why.
Yeah.
Or something just ridiculously over the top, and just maybe she would burst into tears or something. I don't know. But it was just like, that's what she was going for that. That's what she wanted him to say was, oh my God, I caught the president asking me, a Chinese person, a person of Chinese descent, about China. Can you believe it? Well, yes, you were a reporter and you asked him a question.
Well, I did see also, I believe it was in that same one where the infamous Jim Acosta.
Oh, uh-huh.
He talks over the president. I mean, he is this guy.
I'd throw him out for that, man.
Well, he will talk and talk and talk. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know if it was the president or it was one of the other high top men that was having a thing, but he wouldn't shut up. He kept asking this guy.
I don't know why.
It was somebody else. It might have been Munchen or somebody like. And the guy was sitting there trying to answer him. He said, and he would sit there and he would talk, and he said, no. See, we've already. And he would talk. Well, no. You just a minute. Let me just tell you. Let me answer your question here. Then talk. Right. over talk. And I'm sitting there thinking, shut up.
Yeah. And I don't know why they gave him his press pass back for the White House.
The thing about it is he's. Apparently, he's some kind of hero in his close-knit circle.
Well, of course he is. Because
he's the guy who can stand up to power,
right?
And
speak truth to power,
and he can supposedly bully, the high power people.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was maybe the Treasury Secretary
and the girl with the microphone.
And the girl with the mic, right? Exactly. And I thought it was when I listened to this, I'm sitting there thinking. This is, and speaking of talking over, of course, one of the things that is going to kill, I believe, this Zoom business or whatever they're doing, is you can't talk over. That is to say,
oh yeah, if you start to talk, the other guy goes silent.
Something like that. Yeah. I forget exactly how it works, but the problem, I mean, not talking over has always sucked as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's really bad. But
there's a use for it.
Well, but I remember on Bill O'Reilly it used to happen all the time, and he would talk over his own guests. I mean, his own people that were agreeing with him.
Right. Well, now wasn't he the guy who gave everybody the last word most of the time?
Maybe.
Yeah,
might have been.
He was the guy who, at the end of the segment, he would always say, "And you can have the last word."
Could be.
And then now he didn't always stick to it. I heard him jump in a couple times.
Right, and that's right. So the point being that this. Group everybody in a different picture thing ain't gonna work. There's no chance. No chance.
No. Well, like I said, look, it's great that it's happened. It's got to this point, but people are going back to what they were doing before. Humans are face-to-face creatures. We get a lot more communication. I mean,
you think about it. How about neurolinguistics?
Right.
Body language.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at it. Like when you put on a mask, you lose a lot of. I mean, look, like when you put on this, you're like. I'll say something and see if you can, like, if I go like, fuck off. See, I just said hello, And you probably interpreted it as something different.
It sounded obscene to me. No,
because there's no nonverbal communication in there.
You can't imagine how much nonverbally we communicate.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not. I'm not talking about sign language here, but I'm talking about body language.
Right.
And you got to know.
Well, the face is very important.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it as far as humans are concerned. You have to laugh because you look at your dog or your cat or something, and they don't really have any expressions to speak of.
Well, sometimes they
do, very slight, but mostly with the dog it's the tail. You know,
Look, we have so many facial expressions that we have hundreds of emojis that people recognize
literally
as the emotions that
they are adding to the emojis all the time. I mean, it's not like there must be 200-300 just the faces.
Yeah.
Forget the other ones.
Yeah.
But it is funny because when you look up like this, I was sitting there the other day talking to Mrs. Jimmy, and when she was describing something to me, and she was looking up over here when she's talking to me. You talking to me? And so I said, well, you know what? This is interesting. I don't know exactly what this means, but you're looking over here someplace.
Well, the NLP people have all those designations.
I know that because that means you're visualizing it in your mind and so forth. But I mean, it depends if you're looking over here or down or up.
Unless you're left-handed, and then it's your
well, and as we've seen in the past, you've got your shoulder shrugs, you've got your blinking. I mean,
there's a million things.
There's a million things. That's right. And if you lose those things, in your talking back and forth and so forth, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, no, and like I said though, don't have to worry. Don't worry about it. It's over.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It's over. It's taken care of. Not a problem.
It's 5 o'clock.
Yep. So, all right.
So we'll be back on Wednesday.
Hey, TJ. Good to see you, sir. In generations past, the media and the left weren't dumbasses. Well, there you go. All right.
Start our outro.
That's right. Thanks, Mr. McLeod, for these tracks. We really appreciate it, Kevin. We'll be back again on Wednesday, the 20th of May, bringing you all of the good news and the bad news. So, good to see you, TJ. Thanks for dropping in. Everybody else, we'll see you soon.